All right, so we are live. I'll wait for a couple of people to join. I'll repeat this later on, but if you are getting on now or watching this later, my name is Gavi. I'm the new head of marketing at SolidBlock. So Elle is currently traveling. All right, so we're getting some followers in here. Very cool. Yes, Elle's traveling right now, so I'm filling in for her for this week's live. It's something that we want to be doing going forward on Tuesdays at 12 p.m. Eastern time going forward to just let people know about what's going on in blockchain, in crypto, in the crypto world, as well as also maybe some exciting stuff is going on at SolidBlock. So I'm just going to give us a couple more minutes to just let some people join. And then I'll jump into kind of what we have. I'm going to be talking about Ukraine today, the Ukraine-Russia situation, and specifically its connection to what's going on in the crypto markets, and kind of looking at this in terms of big picture, as well as also talk about some principles, do some kind of crypto education a little bit, and also kind of what you could do as we're kind of going into these times of uncertainty, whether it's in your crypto portfolio or elsewhere. So that's what we're going to be focusing on. All right, so we're starting to get some people in here. Let's give it one more minute, and we'll get going. Okay. So, I actually saw right before this, it seems like Russia did their first initial incursion, official incursion, and the Biden administration has responded. So this is going to be interesting to watch, and I think you guys will also be interested to see in terms of what this means in terms of the crypto market. So again, if you're just joining now, Elle is traveling. So my name is Gavi. I'm the new head of marketing at SolidBlock. And we want to cover kind of generally this time every single week covering education about the crypto markets, blockchain, the economy. All right, cool. So I'm going to get started and let's do this. So basically what's going on right now. So again, I just saw right before I joined that Russia seems to have broken the line into Ukraine. The Biden administration has responded. But again, what does this have to do with the crypto markets and the kind of financial markets in general? Because usually they go down. If you look at crypto, if you look at Bitcoin over the past week or so, it's dropped. It had rallied up to I think 46,000. Now it's dropped to 37,000. So what causes these drops in times of uncertainty? Usually it's people are uncertain, so they want to pull their money out of the markets because holding cash seems to give people more stability or seemingly for what they're doing. But I want to kind of talk about the big picture here about what's actually happening and with kind of some interesting, I would say, side notes in the news related to what's going on that have direct proportions to crypto over the past couple of weeks. The end of January, beginning of February, kind of like that crossover period, there's kind of interesting message that went out from the Biden administration that they viewed Bitcoin and cryptocurrency as a matter of national security. This was something that they mentioned. It happens to be this week specifically now that they are supposed to be releasing an executive order on viewing how crypto should be regulated in the United States. They're not going to wait for Congress to pass a bill and pass a law. They're going to be starting with an executive order. So why is this so urgent? Why is this so important? So again, let's lay out kind of the history of the time frame here. 2 weeks ago, Russia announced that they are also going to be regulating the cryptocurrency, crypto asset market. And I believe it was yesterday they announced kind of the initial framework about how that's going to work, both in terms of how the individual people can in their country can own it, as well as also institutions, both local as well as also international. And this is going to be important. I'll tell you why this is important in a minute. So they also was interesting is that they specifically, unlike El Salvador, which specifically defined Bitcoin as legal tender, as a currency in the country, Russia legally defined them as a asset, right? Very similar to real estate or stocks or security or that category of things. It's considered an asset that you would own, not a currency. And then obviously what goes along with that is going to be all the laws, regulations, etc. around this. Now, what was really interesting is that last week, now this is not new, this started in September. In September, the Ukrainian legislation put forward a bill for crypto to regulate crypto in the country, and it just was passed last week also to regulate crypto as an asset. So Again, and it could just be that the Russia announcement and the Russia announcement moving extremely fast could have something to do with the Ukrainian announcement last week. You don't know, but it's just interesting coincidences that are lining up here. So why is this important in terms of kind of like the general thing? So the majority of people in crypto, really probably up until for sure this year, maybe even last year, were retail. These are retail customers who are coming in who are buying Bitcoin, buying crypto. People understood the benefits, or they were just speculating and trying to make money with the prices going up and selling and trading, etc. Now, what's interesting is that starting last year, and I think I forget exactly the month, but I think the first company to put Bitcoin on its balance sheet that was a publicly traded company was MicroStrategy. Michael Saylor, who's now been an extreme proponent of Bitcoin, and also what it can do for governments and institutions. Followed afterwards was Square and obviously Tesla and a number of other large corporations. But the reason why this is significant is that institutional money will come. Right, eventually institutional money will start coming into this thing, both in terms of private companies want to hold it just as a treasury on their balance sheet, as well as also actual investment companies that want to have this for their clients. And the main reason driving this is going to be inflation of the U.S. dollar, right? So you just kind of give an analogy like this: is like if the U.S. dollar is inflating at 7.5, and potentially there's some people who say that number is not actually the official number. That's just the CPI number. The actual number is much higher than that. But if your company is not growing at 7%, or let's say even 15%, like you're losing money every single year. So by holding a portion of your treasury on the balance sheet, that's going to help you hedge against inflation and kind of keep store of value in your company if you don't actually need that operating income for that specific year. So institutional money is coming with it, but particularly the large institutions are not going to be comfortable until there's clarity around regulations. Right? Until there's clarity around regulations, they don't want to put their money in or their clients' money in to something that's in their world at least considered a speculative asset. I would argue that it's not a speculative asset. I think that Bitcoin particularly has some of the most fundamental principles behind any asset that you've ever seen, which will be probably a good topic for another time. But as institutions come in, there's going to become a lot more clarity around, once there's more clarity around crypto and around Bitcoin, you're going to see a much more of a wave of institutions starting to invest in this thing. So, just kind of a quote here I have right here from Cynthia Lumens, who's the senator from Wyoming, who said that she basically specified that there's a difference between Bitcoin and the rest of the crypto market. Rest of the crypto markets are considered securities, right? Whereas Bitcoin itself is considered a commodity, mainly because there's absolutely nothing you can do to manipulate. I'm trying to say you can manipulation of the market, but I would say there's nothing you can do in terms of shutting it down. Right? There's no CEO you can pull in front of Congress. Whereas other companies, even if they behave similarly, if there's any type of centralization in that company, or on that blockchain, they can pull that CEO in front. This actually happened, or there was threats of this happening back in 2018 when Facebook released their Libra cryptocurrency. They released the Libra, and there was threats that Congress was going to pull them in, saying, "Hey, listen, you're creating a new currency that you're trying to basically usurp the U.S. dollar, and this is kind of a way for them to be able to say, hey, listen, what this should be is security, because this is something that people are going to buy with the hope of it going up, and therefore it has to follow all the regulations accordingly." And the point is that there needs to be regulations for this. So Cynthia Lumens has said, and this is probably the direction that most people in Congress are going to go, simply because they can't say anything else, because there's nothing you can actually do to Bitcoin. But what she said is that Bitcoin is a commodity, right? Just like gold, just like precious metals, right? This is a commodity, as opposed to the other crypto currencies and other crypto assets and digital assets are securities. Therefore, there should be regulation around them as such. And the point is that once there is regulation, then people will start piling into Bitcoin and in general the crypto market in probably levels that we've never seen. So in terms of, I wrote down a couple of notes here, because actually there's an interesting thing I came across. So one of the things about Bitcoin is, and I'll say this is true for crypto generally, but for Bitcoin specifically, there are 5 principles of money that it actually applies. It actually makes it one of the best, strongest, hardest money ever in history of the world. So as we're kind of going through these 5 things, think about the U.S. dollar, think about other types of currencies around the world, and kind of which one did these lose as we go through them. So the first one is that it's divisible. So what does that mean? Is that, with gold, it's very hard to divide gold up. So you'll kind of fab that gold, whether it's in bars for a certain amount or coins, but it's something that's divisible. It can be divided up very, very easily. So generally, currency that's used in today's day and age is obviously very covers or checks that marker very well, because it's numbers on a spreadsheet essentially, and it's math. Something that's also very durable. This is number 2, right? So again, traditionally, gold has been the one that's followed this pattern, because this is what's kind of marked up all these categories. So durable, which means that it's not going to tarnish, it's not going to rust, it's not going to wear away over time. There's nothing that's going to degrade it. This is why, let's say, apples would not be a good currency, because after a week, they're garbage, they're compost. The third thing is that it's recognizable. It's basically non-counterfeitable, or you're able to tell that's not counterfeit, right? This has obviously been an issue throughout history of people diluting metals in different types of coins. With gold, it was very difficult, if not impossible, to do that, but other metals, you would be able to do that, which is why gold generally held its value. So it's the same thing here also with Bitcoin, like with that blockchain, that that you received it or that it was sent, because everything's public. What's happening there. Same thing is that it's portable, right? So you can move it around. It's that I'm blanking on where in the world it was, but there was basically an island nation at one point. They basically had these huge rocks that basically denominated the currency of their island. And the problem was that it's not portable, right? So they marked down ledger. I'm not even sure the details of it, but it was something that wasn't portable. It was difficult to move around. Same issue you have traditionally with gold. The gold cost a lot of money to move around, which is basically how the banking system was created, because the bank would store people's gold and they would give bills, notes, that would show that this is the amount of gold you have by our bank. And then if you went off somewhere else, you could then, if that bank and the other bank had a relationship, you could then use their currency and trade in other parts, of the city, of the state, of the country, wherever you're going. This is what generally led to our modern banking system today, be able to have the banks all interoperable and working together. And what they use today generally is the U.S. dollar. So that's kind of the international thing for settlement. So the last point, and this is kind of, I think, the key point about what's going on today, which is that it's scarce, right? So Bitcoin has exactly how much there is. It is not. It's never going to change. Other cryptos as well. This is part of the tokenomics they'll put in place, is that they will have a limited number, or they will have a certain number that will increase, and they'll burn it off over time to be able to control the actual amount of currency that you have available in the ecosystem that people can actually use. This is not true of the U.S. dollar. Kind of an interesting little fact. Over the past 2 years, 40% of all dollars in existence have been printed. Right? So let's just imagine that. So the U.S. dollar has been around now for 100 something years or so. Federal Reserve was created in 1913, so probably the dollar in its current iteration started in 1913, so 109 years or so. And 40% of all the dollars created were created in the past 2 years. Right? So obviously we're seeing that appear now with inflation, right? So the more dollars in existence chasing the same amount of goods, initially it will create more of a demand for those goods because there's a lot more dollars in circulation, and then people just supply chains won't keep up, which is what we're seeing, and then eventually those prices will rise, and that's because everything else is going to go up in terms of the whole system of how that's being built. Whereas Bitcoin, again, it's limited, and other cryptos are limited in terms of how much they have available, and it's hard coded. It's not something that people can change, or a central bank could decide that this is what they want to do. So I want to sum all this up. Again, bottom line, everything that we're talking about here obviously is going to be dubious speculation in terms of what you should do. It's not financial advice. This is kind of just an interesting thought process of what's happening right now in the world related to a major world event right now. But keep in mind that wars are fought over resources. Right. In the end of the day, a war is fought because there's some party who wants to get someone else's resources. They want to get it because they have, again, they have gold, they have coal, they have whatever that resource may be. It could be that they have land for farmland. It could be whatever it may be. The point is that it is in days of old, wars were fought to get land to be able to expand your essentially your future self. To be able to grow crops, grow cities, grow economies, etc. So this war also, there's underlining. There's always going to be lots of reasons, but it's almost always economic. And this is, you see the markets kind of move around because people are concerned about stability of the future. But it's important, I think, to also note that the three major parties in this entire conflict, Russia, Ukraine, and the United States, have all talked about crypto regulations within the 3-week period of each other, right? All exactly in the same time period, all in the same time period leading up to the conflict, which really kind of took a turn today. Obviously, we hope that everyone's going to stay safe and this will end quickly. But this is what generally leads to volatility in the market. It's just an interesting lens, also, just kind of looking through the lens of money and finance, and you could say power, in terms of observing this conflict that's happening right now. Now, I will just mention that markets crash in times of uncertainty. That's what happens with markets. People will generally want to pull their money out. I'll just say one thing, this is like a little psychological phenomenon I like to talk about a lot, which is that the human mind can only understand something if they can compare it to something else. So what does that mean? Like if you don't know what dark is, you can't understand light, because that's just the constant, right? It's a constant variable in everything. So you have no concept of there being any type of a variation in that amount. And when it comes to finances, people think about the U.S. dollar or the currency of their local currency as stable. And particularly with inflation going on, the printing of the money, you don't necessarily you think something's stable, but it's actually moving. So it's a little bit of a flawed concept. And again, this is not financial advice. This is purely educational. But it's a little bit of a flawed concept to take your money out of an asset, which essentially has not actually changed in its fundamentals, right? Like there's still no more Bitcoin. There's still no more real estate. The stocks are still exactly the same amount of stocks as they were. But just the point is that other people are now disagreeing on what the price is. But if you hold on to that asset, you ride the volatility, nothing ever winds up happening. But you think the dollar is stable, which is slowly eroding over time. So it's kind of an interesting psychological phenomenon to be able. Listen, I'm going to be buying this dip. That's what I'm personally doing. So it's generally a good time to buy. Robert Kiyosaki, who's the author of Rich Dad Poor Dad, always says he gets excited when there's market dips, because that's when he gets to buy everything on sale. So that's one kind of perspective to think about there, and this is what we're seeing right now. When there's times of uncertainty in the world, people want to pull their money out into something that's quote unquote more certain in terms of what's going on. So again, like I said, generally this is the best time to buy. So I will end this live, and I'll just mention right now that SolidBlock, we recently released or partnered with organization to release the Digital Asset Handbook, which is a great resource to understand the future of what's going on. So like if someone wants to make a decision about should I invest in crypto, should I invest in blockchain products and companies in the future, and they're uncertain about it. Like one of the problems with the crypto market is a lot of uncertainty and volatility. People put their money in, and basically they're waiting for the price to pump, and then they pull it out. To try to make more money. But you don't understand if you don't understand the fundamentals of what it is you're actually investing in, right? You'll always be in a time of uncertainty when there's a market dip. If you understand and educate yourself on the certainty of it, and this Digital Asset Handbook is an excellent resource to be able to do this. It's been endorsed by 2 U.S. senators. You can go over to SolidBlock's website. It's totally free. It's on their homepage. Scroll down. It's on our homepage. Just scroll down. You can download it, and you can get educated on exactly what you need to do to be able to kind of ride the wave that's going right now, and to protect yourself and grow your wealth into the future. And with that, I'm going to sign off. I'm just going to check real quick. Are there any questions? If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in here. I believe that I can. I believe that I can see them on my phone here. If not, I will sign off in about 15 seconds. So if you have any questions, let me know. And again, by the way, if you have any idea who I am, I'll just mention Elle's traveling right now. So my name's Gavi. I'm the new head of marketing at SolidBlock, filling in for her this week. And this was fun. So if you have any questions, drop in the thing. Otherwise, I will see you guys all later. See ya.